clothes she brought home were those on her back. And she had these dirty old baseball shoes, and her jeans, and a shirt, and a gobby. And she looked pretty tired because they'd been on the plane for a long time. And so we didn't get to bed until about 11 o'clock. She opened her suitcase, and it was just like Christmas all over again. And we got to see all the other presents. It's kind of fun to see all these artifacts and different things from Africa. I guess the biggest news, and you probably already received Daryl's letter, is that we're going to come to see you. And plans, it's really, I think, pretty definite. We've got already some money saved up, and we're planning on bringing at least Chris and Inger. We don't know about Katherine. We've got questions about that. And Katherine said she'd take care of her. But when Glenn gets out of school, around the 7th or 8th of December, we're going to take off. Glenn and Mom and Daryl and I and Lisa and Inger and Chris. How's that strike you? And come see you and spend Christmas with you. We're getting kind of excited because Aunt Katherine brought up the book Africa from A to Z, and we've been reading about the countries, and we've decided we want to go see Senegal and Ghana, Guinea. Senegal and Guinea. It looks like they've got some interesting things to see. And Sierra Leone. So I'm going to write the embassies in Washington, get all the information. Maybe we could plan a trip. We could meet you in Freetown and then rent a car and go up through there. You can look into that possibility too. We've got a lot of time to decide and make plans and write letters between, see what you find out. I hope we can rent a car in Freetown to drive out to Koidu. And we'll have to find out about hotels and so forth. And I think we'll probably be bringing along a couple sleeping bags so that you won't have to worry about beds and so forth for us. We'll have, with all the people, we can bring some extra weight. We'll have 44 pounds for each for 6 of us. That gives us quite a leeway. Since it'll cost over $1,000 for us to fly all of us to fly to New York, we're going to look into plans for renting a Volkswagen van or something and drive to New York, since that seems to be the biggest expense. And as the 1st of February, the rates will go down because the International Rate Board couldn't decide what rates to settle on, and so it's just going to be open market. So the rates are supposed to go way down because each airline will be buying for passengers and lower the rates and so forth. So that's what plans look like from this side. We're getting kind of excited. But last night I was telling Daryl at the supper table, we were sitting around eating popcorn and apples, and I can't remember what it was, but there's so many things, that Daryl says, well, we have to put that off until after we go to Africa. So he says, well, it looks like, he says, we keep putting off all these things. Oh, maybe we just better go tomorrow to Africa. Linga was sitting there, and pretty soon she pipes up and she says, no, we can't, because we've got to go to Shakey's. Yesterday was her birthday, and she got a free Shakey's pizza and balloon and pop coupon for it from Shakey's. And so we can't come to Africa today because we've got to go to Shakey's first for Ingrid. Cass says, for me too. Why don't you come and talk to Lisa and Neil? Come on. The girls are sitting around in their nightgowns here. They haven't had their breakfast yet, and they're reading. Maybe Inger will come and tell you about her birthday party. Uh-oh, the tape looks like it's about to the end, so maybe I better finish out taping and then let the girls do it. We've got Mom and Glenn have been up here. Well, Mom came up last weekend and she thought she was only going to stay a couple days, but when she gets up here, then we just prolong the visit, which I don't think she minds. She keeps busy, and we keep her busy, and we've had a good week with Karel. Not getting too much accomplished, but that's not the idea, I guess. Mom and Karel are planning to go home today and spend a week, and then Karel's got to come back up, and Bob is flying out the 15th of February for 5 days, and then Karel will go back with him to Boston for 5 days, and then they'll fly on. It's a rather short visit, but we're glad we could see her at least for a month before she goes back for those 2 years. I'm just keeping an eye here on the tape and see what I can quickly say. Oh, it's, we finally got some, weather's always a good subject. Spring finally came for about a week. We had beautiful temperatures up in the 60s. But then Friday night, surprise to all, it snowed again about 8 inches. So we've got very icy roads now again. And snow, so it's back to the old dreary, dull winter. Well, this is the end, so I'll turn it over, and then we can get Inger and Kath to talk to you. Maybe we can get some conversation here. And Inger, oh yeah, Inger's sitting here too. She just dumped a whole bunch of sugar on her grapefruit. Are you going to eat all that?
Yeah.
Oh. How was your birthday?
Fine.
What'd you get for your birthday?
A quilt and a ring and a forest painting.
Hey, take the spoon out of your mouth. A high chair for your doll?
Yeah.
What was the biggest thing? What did you like? What did you do for your party?
Celebrated it.
Celebrated it? Well, talk louder. Don't get the spoon out of your mouth. What'd you do, Kath? She sticks out her tongue and acts shy. She gets speechless when she sees that mic around. Did you crawl in bed with Aunt Karel last night?
Yeah.
You did? Why'd you crawl in bed with her? Huh? There's no room for you two. Is there?
Today I crawled in with her.
You did? Is Inger still sleeping? I mean, Kath still sleeping?
Mm-hmm. And Inger's bed.
Oh. What are you going to do today? Is Justin going to come over?
Yeah.
What do you do for Justin?
Give him milk.
Give him his milk?
Yeah.
Oh. What are you going to do next summer?
Get my pretty cake.
Get your pretty cake? What else?
Go to Ely's.
Ely's. What else?
The circus.
And the circus? What else?
There's a swimming pool.
That's a question she asks about 2 or 3 times every day. When am I going to get my pretty cake? When are we going to go to the circus and Ely's and go swimming? Those just stand out in her mind as the biggest events, I think, in her life. What did you see at the circus?
My animals.
Animals, yeah. What are you going to have for breakfast this morning? Why don't you say something, Mom? I'll say it when I get home. Oh, she gets, when you put this microphone in front of her, she gets speechless. Can't you say anything now? Just like Katherine.
Well, Karel and I are getting ready to go to Fowler, and I've got to take all the artifacts home and gather up all the clothes. After you've been here for about 10 days, why, you get quite a bundle of things to take home. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, stop. So that's what telling the picture.
Well, tape recorder went on the blink, so that we had to have a momentary pause here to get it taken care of again. As I said, we were heading for home now, and there are ground blizzards, so Karel is quite anxious to get started. Just in case I forget to mention this to you in a letter or something, we got $5 more from Patty Wagon. So I'll be sending that in the next letter, and you can add that to your fund too. I think that's enough for now, and then I'll record one again.
Carol?
I was really happy to come home and surprise everybody.
Tell them about Glenn and Mom, your telephone conversation. I didn't tell them about that.
Well, I'll tell you about our horrendous week in Addis before we left later, but I'll start. I got to Denver, and I've been on the plane for about 12 hours, and tried to be very calm and wait for my luggage. There were about 300 people that had poured into Denver to go skiing, so there were a lot of people waiting for their luggage, but I calmly waited, and instead of being the last piece down, it was about the 5th piece down, so I grabbed it, went out and got a taxi, and came straight over here to Kayne and Daryl's. I had my money ready to give him, but it was a little more than I thought it was going to be, so I had to dig in my pocket for some more change. And I was standing down here in the corner because I didn't want him to drop me off in front of the house, and looking through my change in my hand and shaking. I was so excited I was shaking. I couldn't find a quarter. I knew I had one more quarter. And I said, well, it's here somewhere. And he says, well, what's all that money you got in your hand? I said, well, it's not American money. And I finally found the quarter, dropped it in the snow. And he picked it up. I think he wondered just what was going on. And I came up to the door and walked in. And of course, Chris's greeting was very nonchalant, as Karl said. Then we called Mama. And I was on the extension of car, Mom, and we're talking about the weather, having a good conversation.
Carol wanted me to say, I've got a surprise, but I didn't.
So I listened for a while, and I was crying. I said, hi, Mama. And she thought that something had happened then. I said, Karen, what's the matter? I said, it's Carol. And so she started crying. So we had a good cry then for a couple of minutes, and then we talked. And we called Glenn, but he wasn't home, so we called back. And Karen was talking and asking if he wouldn't want to come to Denver this weekend. I said, no, I got some things to do. I said, well, why? He said, there was a silence. What? I said, why not? I said, Carol. So we surprised him, too. And I went around surprising everybody, and it was a lot of fun to do that because no one was expecting me at all.
Glenn came up. He didn't need any more persuasion.
Well, I think I'll wait until we get home because we really need to get moving before I tell you about everything else on the trip and what I'm doing to get ready to go back.
I'll sit and talk to you while I'm eating my grapefruit. I'll record some more here. I guess I was telling you before on the tape that we had this job to do with the medical center. Well, it still isn't done because I just called this morning to see about some locks. They got us all except 3 of our locks, and they lost them between here and North Carolina. So I had to reorder them, and it's going to be a month more. But I told them, I said, they better air freight those in here and get them to us as soon as possible. Because that's part of our money to come to Sierra Leone. And we can't get paid till the job's done. So, I'm also this morning, we have the program for preschool, and so I have to get some stuff typed up. Oh, I've got so many things to do this week. I thought the rush was before Christmas, but it seems like I get myself so involved in everything else. We had annual meeting at the church yesterday. We've had kind of a big crisis in our church the past week. Bud resigned, and it was real sad. The crisis came at the council meeting when it was assumed that Bud had handed in his resignation, which he was thinking about. He had offered, but there was nothing definite on it. But the budget committee assumed that he had handed in his resignation, and so they presented the budget to the council with an $800 raise for Pastor Bob and none for the assistant pastor. And then they called Pastor Bob's salary increase, wasn't a cost of living, but a merit raise. Well, people not knowing, that Bud had not resigned and were quite upset, that Bud didn't get a merit raise and that he'd been, and then he said, well, he was going to resign. They thought it was forced. And, it was just a very, very good example of lack of communication. So things have been up in the air and people have been upset, and but it looks like people got to talking this week and feelings have been aired, and it was a good meeting yesterday. And things look up now, are looking up. We've got 7 new people on the council, and they look like they're going to be very good. The council this year seems to get more conservative and more conservative, and Dale thought he would resign, but now he's decided maybe it's all right. But Bud and Muriel they're looking forward to new things now. They're going to be staying in Denver, and they've got several possibilities, including going in part-time to another church, and then Bud wants to go to school. So I've been involved in that, and talking to people, and to Bud and to Bob and to our president of the congregation and so forth. So I guess we're going to go down to Fowler this weekend. Stanley and Gwen had a little girl a week ago. They named her Adrian, Adrian, Kim. So Stanley didn't get his little boy, and he hasn't called us. I think he would have called us. He was positive it was going to be a boy, just so sure of himself, and he bragged to Daryl and everything, and I don't think he had the gumption to face Daryl or call Daryl and tell him it was a girl after that happened, but I'm sure they'll keep her just the same. So we thought we'd go down, and then for the weekend. We haven't been down since Christmas. And then, well, what have I been doing since Christmas? Not too much, kind of relaxing. I had to take Daryl's sport coats apart because they didn't fit, and that was a big hassle too. McCall's patterns, I don't think I'm ever going to use them again if I can help it. They just are getting skimpier, and they sure messed me up. I did buy a new pattern, though, in simplicity, and I'm going to make Daryl another sport coat, so I don't give up too easily. Saturday night we had a party here. It was the group. There were about 25, and it was potluck. Everybody brought something. I ended up bringing a salad and all the mashed potatoes and Christmas crunch pudding. And I furnished the coffee. And we had 3 tables set up in the living room and dining room. And our house really is nice for serving a lot of people like that. And then we went downstairs and sat around the fire and looked at Karel and Dave's Africa pictures, and everybody was real impressed. And so, that was also the day we celebrated Inger and Miriam's birthdays, because Sunday there was too many things going on, so Marianne and I both decided that we would celebrate a day early. Inger had a lunch party, and Miriam came over, and Amy and Deidre, and they had pizza and popsicles and cake. And then at 1:30, we went over to Marianne's. We went along too. It was Marianne's birthday, and we had coffee over there, and Uncle Richard and Alma came up. Last weekend, Mom and Glenn came up. They came up on a Friday night. And Saturday, Glenn went shopping I had to tell him the bad news that his shoes hadn't come in from Penny's. Well, we got the bad news that time. He's been trying to order some since August, and he wants this pair so badly, and he was desperate, and finally before Christmas he bought some at Sears, but he still wants this other pair. So I think one pair, I ordered 2 others then, thinking, well, at least I'll get one pair, and they called Saturday and said they had 1 pair in, the other was coming in 5 days, so maybe he'll get 2 pair, and then he can make his choice, or maybe he'll even keep both of them. They're pretty good price, and they're neat shoes. And then he went, for helping us, he wouldn't take any salary, so we bought him a backpacking tent, a 2-man tent, and so he and Chris set that up Saturday, and they were going to sleep out Saturday night. But come Sunday morning, wouldn't you know, Glenn was sleeping in the basement, and Chris was still sleeping outside. We really razzed Glenn about that. His excuse was that he hadn't filled up his airbag enough, and so the ground got cold. They were sleeping on the snow out in the backyard, so it got cold, and he had to come in. But he thinks it's a real neat tent, and it rolls up very nicely, and he's excited about that. But anyway, Saturday morning he went shopping, and he bought himself a beanbag chair. And I asked him if it fit him. It doesn't look like it, but when he sits down in it, it looks like his legs are sprawled clear out. And he also bought a flash attachment for the camera. So we should be all set up for taking pictures in Sierra Leone. Now, Daryl and I will have to learn how to run the camera too, so we can take turns and take lots of pictures. And then he helped Daryl in the afternoon, and Saturday night we had chicken parmesan, which is Glenn and Daryl's, all our favorites. And then we went down and played a game of rook. Well, Carol and Daryl beat us, needless to say, but we didn't give in, so we challenged them to another game on Sunday. Sunday was the Super Bowl, but it wasn't very exciting, so Daryl finally turned it off, and we played 2 other games. We won 1 set, but then Carol and Daryl beat us on the other set, so they were the champions. But we'll still, I imagine this next weekend, we'll have some more games. Daryl and I played Scrabble last night, and he beat me twice, too. I can't seem to beat him nowadays. We come within about 10 points of, I come within about 10 points of him, but I never can get over enough to beat him. On Sunday, Uncle Harold and Aunt Virginia came over, and they had supper with us. We had a big group here for supper. Uncle Harold and Aunt Virginia, Mom and Glenn, Carol, and Jeanette, and we got together. I thought it was a real good supper, and we had a good talk. They were up for the stock show. And then Tuesday evening, we had another supper. We had leg of lamb, and Dave and Aunt Katherine and Uncle James were here. And Dave showed his pictures again to Aunt Katherine and Uncle James, so they knew what they were getting into. And we had a good visit with them, and they left then on Wednesday morning, about 11 o'clock. We took them out to the airport. Tom and Pat Fetty left for Washington, too, that morning, and I had to take them out at 10 o'clock. And so we had a regular taxi going between here and the airport. Oh, yeah. Last time that Uncle James and Aunt Katherine, when they went to the Bahamas with Uncle Harold and Aunt with Uncle Harold and Aunt Tootsie, they left their car here. And about, several days after they had gone, in the middle of the night, we woke up to this terrible horn honking. Couldn't figure out what was going on, and so I got up, and it sounded like it was coming from our backyard where Uncle James's car was. So, sure enough, Daryl went out there, and it was stuck. 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, Carol was here, and she had, just about a week ago, and Carol had gotten her car. And was it at night, Mom? When Carol?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it was about 9 o'clock at night.
It's about 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock at night. Well, just a minute. I'm talking to them. And the horn started honking. Well, Mom, she was talking to Bob on the telephone.
And Rick came over. He was still in his bearskin
Oh, really?
He didn't have his shirt on. He looked so cold. He was supposed to test his parents.
He said there was Carol's car that was the horn had stuck on it. So I think we have a poltergeist around here or something that turns on horns. I guess we're going to, I don't know if we'll have time to get any more taping on Kath and Inger. We just about have to catch them unawares. They get so microphone shy. But they are really characters. What was it that we were supposed to remember what Kath was saying? Was it last night she was...
I thought that was just about the important things.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she was telling Carol a story. She's got a lot of stories to tell Carol. She was telling that if she ate a lot of food, then she'd get a big tummy, and then she'd have a baby. They're in the bottom drawer of the refrigerator. Mom's trying to get together all her stuff. That's a major chore when either we go down there or she comes up here to get together all her stuff. Oh yeah, get the bill straightened out too. We got. Oh, we've got a care package we're sending you, Lisa and Neil. It's lots of goodies, and we're sending it C-mail, so it's going to take a while. But it's from people who care. To people who care to send the very best. So we're. I think it'll be kind of fun to open it up. I just hope you don't have to pay any duty. It's. We've been having fun buying it. We're sending Carol one too, so it'll be there when she gets there, or it'll get over there soon after she gets there. What are you going to say, Carol?
Is my hair down here?
No.
Do you have your own one?
Yeah.
Can I take it with
Yeah.
me? I've got things scattered from hither to yon. I don't think I'm ever going to collect them, but maybe it doesn't matter.
She's going to store some of her stuff down at Mom's, so it looks like Mom's going to...
Carol doesn't know it yet, but she's going to have a job to helping clean up the basement so that we can get some of the stuff in. I'm going to put that much down there, Dad.
I think Mom thought that after she got all her daughters married off, that she was going to get rid of all the stuff, but I think she has more stuff than ever. She doesn't have any of our stuff now, though, so... But she's got all of your stuff, and now she's going to get all of Carol's and Dwayne's stuff and everything. Oh, let's see. I'm kind of running out of things to say right now. Maybe we'll get a tape. We have Rick and Charmaine's tape recorder over here, so maybe I can get Daryl to do some taping. And he's still working on his house. He's got some paint to paint it, and they knocked down a wall between the kitchen and the dining room, so there's more sunlight and more room. But this weekend he just didn't feel like doing much, so he just kind of piddled around. Oh, he did do a lot. He chopped up a whole bunch of wood for the fireplace before our party on Saturday.
Okay, we're just sitting down to a hot game of rook, and I have to play with Karn, and I've never played with Karn before. I usually play with Daryl. So we'll probably lose. And I just bid 105,
Yeah, 105.
and black is trumps. And
And
where's
are
the
you-
card? And yeah.
Oh, you got to throw it away first.
No, you pick it up first, can't you?
Yeah, you pick it up.
Yeah.
Well, I can't think and record at the same time. Bye.
Now I think it's enough practice.
Karn and I just wiped them out. I bet they only, how many points did we get? 40. So we wiped them out. It's a cold, cold day here. It started snowing last night. It didn't snow very much, but the wind is blowing. I'll bet the chill factor is way below zero. And there's a lot of dust in the air, too, so it's a pretty miserable day, but a good day to stay inside and stand over the furnace. We're going to make caramel popcorn pretty soon.
Yeah, coming back from getting some cream down around Manzanola, we looked up north and it was just dusty up there. The wind was blowing so hard that the sky was brown. So it's not snowing very much, just blowing a lot.
This morning when Golden and I started to go get the cream, we got in his little Volkswagen and he turned on the key and the motor was racing about 70 miles an hour. And he couldn't fix it. I guess the gas pedal was stuck. So we went in my car and the roads were really icy. And we came back downtown, got out of the car to go in and get a zipper, which I needed, and saw Grandma, and I turned around to say hello to her, and as I turned around, I slammed the door, and I started to walk away, and I caught my coat in the door, and I couldn't get it out. He pushed, and I pulled, and we couldn't get the coat to save us, so I had to take my coat off and hang it in the door and run all over town without a coat on. It was really freezing. So when we got home, I had to take both feet and push it against the door, and then it finally broke open, and I guess the coat was caught in the lock. It's got oil all over it now, so I have to take it into the cleaners.
I think they're just going to set us.
100?
Yeah. Well, Rod, I need your support.
I look again.
Where are your 2 ones, Rod?
My 2 ones?
Something tells me there's more than 4 ones around here.
Oh, boy.
I guess that one was at 13.
Okay. There's, okay. We'll run out the greens. I bet you this is real boring to sit and listen to us playing rook.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah.
Things are looking up. Carol and I started out, we tied in series, and Carol and I started out, can you imagine 260 in the hole? We each bid 130 and didn't make it. And Glenn and Rod had 160. So there was 420 points. But now we're 110. We're 5 out of the hole, and they are...
No, just a minute. I don't know if I counted the 23 most books.
Oh, we got the most tricks, too?
I'm sure we did.
Oh, yeah.
Well, wait.
Count yours.
Things are looking up.
20, 40, 50, 60, 70.
Oh, 70. Well, then we are 30 out of the hole.
No, 25.
25 out of the hole, and they're 85. So now it's an even game. Now we have a chance. Yay for Carol the card.
Yes. Here's the man who made it all possible.
Thank you. Thank you. Really, I hope. Really, I really don't deserve this. All of this. Really, I owe a lot to my
Do
partner.
you deserve this?
Glenn's shaking fists at me now.
But he did on there like I did on Glenn.
Let's hope not.
immigration just as they went on strike. And 15 minutes after we got through, there were 600 people waiting to go through immigration. So our plane was delayed because the air traffic was on strike too. And I had to make a connection in Boston for Denver that was supposed to be 2 hours leeway. Well, it got to be later and later, and I thought I was going to miss it. But we got into Boston, and a Pan Am agent met me right at the plane, and I had to go through health inspection and customs and get my luggage down to the other plane, and I just barely made it. I had 30 minutes when we landed in Boston to catch my plane, and I made it. So then it was a 4-hour flight to Denver. By that time, I'd been in the air about 12 hours. So I was pretty tired when I came to Denver, and it took me a while to get back into the swing of things. So I'm still not sure I am. And then I'm going to be going back, and it's going to be worse. Mama says don't erase this tape because of what Katherine's saying on it.
Hi. I'm Inger.
Inger. Who?
Inger Finn.
Who are you?
I'm Krista Finn.
Where are you from?
Fowler.
Fowler. What are you doing here?
I'm spending the night.
Tell him what Uncle Stanley had with us about them. Yeah, tell her. I don't think
I will.
Okay, let Calista tell.
I'm still going to have a new baby. Name is Adrian. He's a girl.
Yeah, that's good. Who is this? That's a microphone. Nobody. This is just a microphone. I don't know if I told you, Lisa and Neil, I could come through Sierra Leone on my way back. However, it was about 5 extra days of traveling, and so I thought it would be just too much. So I won't do it this time, but I might get over there yet. You never know. Bob's coming out not this coming Tuesday, but the next Tuesday. I think it's the 6th of February, and then we'll be here a week. And then we're going back to Bernardston, and that's only about 15 miles from the Vermont border in Massachusetts. And we're going to go up into New Hampshire and Vermont and visit people. So that will be fun for me to get to see New England since I've never been back there. And then we're going back to London and finish up the business he has. He wants to speak to some wildlife organizations to see about getting money for Bali. And then we're going on back to Addis, spend about 3 days there getting supplies, and then go back into Bali. And there we'll be for a while, I guess.
Well, I guess unless something unforeseen happens, why we'll be spending Christmas with you in December. Glenn gets out about the 1st of December, and so we will hope. Are we on?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Mom. It's 9:45 and all's well. We're trying to persuade Callista and Ingrid that they want to go to sleep, but so far they're just as bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as they can be. We've had a very nice day today. The wind didn't blow, and it was comparatively warm. We went to church this morning, and then we had dinner. Had a real fancy dinner. And then in the afternoon, Bill and Evelyn came over, and Mom, Grandma, and Rod were here for dinner too. So we've had a pretty nice Sunday. Glenn has just gone back to school, but we plan to get together with the Denver bunch again on next week when it's Daryl's birthday. We had a coffee party for Karel the other day. We had about 20 people here. We spent the morning getting ready. It seemed to be so simple, but it really wasn't too simple whenever we figured up all the time we spent. I made some banana bread and date bread and ginger snaps, and Karel helped make the Danish pastry. And let's see, what else do we have?
I don't know. We spent the first hour finding things for each other. Paula couldn't find any recipes, and I couldn't find any kettles.
It seems as if I had filed them under the wrong thing. I wanted to make some of Jeanette's cookies. They're so good. They're peanut squares. And I had filed them under cake instead of under cookies. So I didn't get to make them, but at least I know where they are now. We just mostly talked at the party, and we showed off all the artifacts, and Karel answered so many questions. And the people dropped in all afternoon because some of them were teaching, and they couldn't get off school in time to come for the main party, but I think everybody enjoyed it. We had Aunt Tootsie and Uncle Harold and Cindy and Paul in for supper one night, too. We had beef burgundy, and it turned out really well, and they liked it, too. They had to have the recipe. I could go back now and tell you how Christmas was here. Of course, I think Karen has already mentioned it to you, but she didn't mention about Pete Gates coming. She drove all the way from Chapel Hill. Then she went down to Florida to spend Christmas with her brother. And then she went up to Kansas to spend Christmas with a very dear friend. And then she came to Fowler. She came in on a blizzard. I was quite worried about her that because it was bad weather up here. But she did manage to get up here about, it was about midnight. But she'd had bad luck. She'd spent a day and a half in Pittsburgh, Kansas, trying to find Jolo. He had gotten away, and they looked high and low all over the city to find him, but they couldn't find him, and she was just sick. So she left word with the radio and the newspaper and the policeman and the humane officer. If they found Jolo, why, please let her know. And we went out to dinner down at Rocky Ford on Sunday, and still no word from Jolo. But we'd just gotten in the door, and the telephone rang, and we both jumped to answer it. And it was from Pittsburgh, and they had found Jolo. And he was just so happy to have somebody to pet him and love him. And so it was a happy ending. But I got a letter from her the other day, and she said that he had really aged from his experience. She wants me to go during spring break down to Florida, but I just don't feel up to it. So I think that I'm going to stay home. When we got home, we had quite a bit of mail, and some of it was from Albuquerque, inviting me to come down there and spend a weekend, or as much time as I wanted to. But we had received word that Karel was home now, and so I just told him that I wasn't making plans to do anything except just to stay at home until Karel leaves for Ethiopia again. So I think that after she leaves, I might go down and stay a while with her.
We called.
Yeah, we called and talked to them. And Dorothy said that just any time, just let them know in advance. I don't know yet if I'm going to fly or if I'm going to go by bus. if it's nice weather, it would be fun to go by bus because I haven't seen that particular area. And if it's bad weather, why, I guess I'll fly.
I just finished talking to Bob for about 45 minutes. I can imagine what the telephone bills between here and there are going to be. He called Thursday just before the coffee party, and we talked for about 40 minutes then, too, and that was in the middle of the day, so I don't know what it's going to cost. But he says, don't worry about it. Since he's paying for it, I guess I won't. He asked me on the telephone if we had flowers out here. And I said, well, no, it's wintertime. And he says, well, I mean in the house. And I said, no, we have green plants. We don't have flowers. And then I didn't think any more about it. And about an hour later, when all these ladies were here, there was a knock at the front door, and in walks a florist with 6 long-stemmed roses, red roses. And of course, I turned as red as the roses were. And he didn't put a signature on the card. So they said, well, who are they from? And I just sort of smiled and said, well, I didn't have a signature on it. So they never did find out who they were from. But that's all right. They'll find out soon enough, I guess. I don't know if I told you what an awful time we had getting out of Ethiopia. We worked for about a month trying to get visas and exit visas, and Bob had to get things squared away with the Peace Corps before he could leave. And so finally we just gave up and got a reservation on the first flight, BOAC. That was a direct flight from Addis to London. And it was the inaugural flight to leave on the 7th, I think. That was on a Sunday of January. Well, we were all excited. We went out to the airport 2 hours early that day. The plane was supposed to come in. And it didn't come, and it didn't come, and we waited and waited, and finally we learned it was going to be late, and they didn't know how late. Well, it turned out it was 26 hours late, so we had to turn around and go home. And we weren't sure that they were